Welcome back to another episode of What Do We Watch? Howdy, everyone. We are back with another episode. We have another guest appearance from the wonderful, the talented Emily. Emily, say hello to the people.
Hello.
Nice. Yeah, so we're recording this special one here. Well, it's not really. I don't know why I said that. It's not a special one. It's just like a normal episode.
I just happen to be here.
Yeah. Well, that's special then. Aw. Anyway, so yeah, we decided to record this one because we just recently came back, and by say recently, I mean to several hours ago, from the Adirondack Mountains. We were staying in the wonderful Saranac Lake. Shout out to, I don't know how many people live there.
It's not that many, I don't think.
If you had to guess how many people, without looking it up, live in Saranac Lake?
I'm going to say a couple thousand.
Year-round?
Yeah, like permanent residents.
All right. Well, shout out to each and every one of you. You little winners up there. Yeah, so the movie we are covering today, Emily, would you like to tell the people what we're covering, if they haven't read the title or the social media posts about it?
We will be covering The Parent Trap.
Dun, dun, dun. So Parent Trap was released in... This is the 1998 version. This is not the original... I guess it's the original version, right?
No.
What do you mean no? No, not this one. There's another one.
Right, this is
That's
not
what I
the
said.
original.
This is not the original version.
That is correct.
Do you happen to know when the original one came out?
Early 1960s. I've actually never seen the original, full disclosure, but
And
from
yet
the
you are wearing a Camp Walden hoodie or a
am.
crew neck, so...
From the extensive research I've done about the 1998 version, in a way, I feel like I have seen it.
I don't super know if that's how that works, but I'm really happy for you.
Well, they're really similar.
Is it the same plot? Does it differ at all?
I think there are some differences. I mean, obviously, there's almost 40 years of time
That's fair.
in between them from when they're set, so there's some differences there. But I believe it does also have the twins at like a girls' camp, and they switch places. That kind of storyline, the top level storyline, I believe, is the same.
Still the same. Yeah, that makes sense. So this one came out 1998, as we previously said. The budget was $15 million, which I thought was pretty good. And the box office, this made $92.1 million. It's a pretty good movie. That's pretty good. Would you say this is one of your favorites?
Yeah.
This is one of your comfort movies for sure. I would also like to shout out Mary, who we work with. I know she absolutely loves this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think she listens to this, but I'm going to tell her. Now she has to, because I'm going to tell her that there was a shout out in the second half. So if she plays the second half, she'll have to go back. But anyway, so this was directed by Nancy Myers, and it was a screenplay by David Swift, Nancy Myers, and Charles Shire. Do you want to go over some of the characters?
Yeah, sure.
Like the cast, I mean?
So both twins are allegedly played by Lindsay Lohan.
So we're going to get into why.
We'll talk about why that's alleged at a later time. But that's, according to IMDb, that's the truth. That is different from the original. I know in the original, they're actually played by different people. Yeah. So that's one difference. But moving on. The dad is played by Dennis Quaid.
So let's say that. So Lindsay Lohan plays Haley Parker and Annie James. Hallie, excuse me. All right, I'm just going to let Emily take over from here.
Hallie and Annie are both played by Lindsay Lohan.
Allegedly.
Right.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid is the dad who has... What is the word? He has custody.
That was tough.
Of Hallie.
I truly had no idea what you were getting at. You were like, he has... I'm like, a wonderful smile. Just a youthful soul.
Forgot the word for custody.
Yeah, that's wild.
So he has custody of Hallie, and then Natasha Richardson plays the mom, Elizabeth James, and she has custody of Annie.
Yeah.
And then a couple other notable characters. Elaine Hendricks, she plays Meredith Blake, who's like the evil girlfriend.
The evil, soon-to-be stepmother. She's only she's supposed to be 26 in this movie.
Yeah.
She looks like a 45-year-old person. We are older than her now.
I don't think she looks that old. I think it just bothers me that I'm older than she was, and she was dating Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, that's wild. I just feel like some of the we'll definitely get into it, but some of the she's on the phone with people oh, hello, I'll get back to you, and I'm like, oh, I fell asleep with my shoes on in the bed again. We are very different. I don't know. It just made me laugh.
Okay, two more notable characters. Chessie, who is the live-in servant of Nick Parker's house, is played by Lisa Ann Walter. One of my favorite characters personally. Yeah.
She also is in what is that? The Abbott Elementary.
Abbott Elementary.
For those of you, watch that show also. Just as a general note to anyone listening.
Yeah, she's great in that show.
You, please.
And then last notable character is Martin, who is
he's
the butler for Elizabeth James, and he's played by Simon Kunz.
Nice. So there's two. I think we said this. One of them, just a little bit of backstory. I think we are gonna get into the plot of this, but just some backstory. So they were married. Dennis Quaid, or Nick, and Elizabeth were married, had 2 kids. They split up. One stayed in America, and the other one moved to England. So there's kind of it's I don't know how you would call it. I don't know why they did that, but
yeah, it seems like something that would never happen in the legal system today.
Yeah. But it seems like both families have a similar setup. They have a live-in caretaker.
Yeah, they do have a similar
They basically
setup.
mirror each other identically, which I think is just a cool theme that you'll see throughout. Before we get into the plot, though, with Hallie, and Annie. So I did see. Apparently, those are the 2 names of the director's daughters, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
so
and
that's
there's
where
also
they got the names from
in the movie. Both of her actual daughters cameo in the movie.
Where are they?
One of them.
It's got to be at the camp.
One of them plays a random camper that asks the counselor for help when they first get there. Yeah. It's very small. And then one of them is a servant, and when later in the movie Meredith Blake falls and they bring her a first aid kit, one of the servants at the hotel, and that's her daughter, the servant.
That's pretty cool. That's kind of neat.
So
she'd be like, "Oh, look how fun this is! I'm making a movie and it's your names." And they're like, "We're gonna be in it."
Yeah.
And you're like, no, not even.
But
close.
you can play a server at a pool.
A server. You might have a line. We might cut it.
Right.
So anyway, do you want to? All right, let's get into the plot. So, I think this takes place. So this says it takes place in 1986, or that's I guess when it starts, the opening credits. That's when these 2, Nick and Liz, got married. So it kind of starts off with a photo montage of, I guess, the wedding, all these different pictures on the boat and stuff.
Yeah, so I think Elizabeth James is from England, and Nick Parker's not from England, but he's I think in England on business or something, so they end up taking this boat over from Europe to the U.S. or maybe vice versa.
It was a
together.
Titanic situation.
They met on the boat.
Is this Titanic if they would have made it? That's a hot take. That's a very hot take. We'll see you guys next week when we come back. So, yeah, sorry. I'm stupid.
So they meet on the boat because they're both there by themselves and are seated near each other at dinner. And end up getting married on the boat because boat captains can marry people. That's
this is
part
Titanic.
Of the deal. So
this is Titanic. How long do they know each other?
I mean, they fit all of Titanic into the opening credits of Parent Trap, but
but they made it. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Titanic. But at this point, grow up. You should have known this story. So I guess it starts with all these photo montage.
Yeah, it's going through all these pictures of them on the boat, their wedding. It's just a very simple kind of affair because they didn't obviously plan for it in advance.
What was the name of the boat? The Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
Wow. Titanic 2. Electric Boogaloo.
Maybe.
This time,
possible.
The iceberg hits them. That's so dumb. I'm sorry. I can't keep making Titanic references throughout.
Okay, so yeah, they're going through all these pictures, which if you're watching The Parent Trap for the first time, you probably are just okay.
Hella confused.
These are a bunch of pictures, and you're just paying more attention to the names of who's in the movie. that are flashing across the screen than that the pictures are actually setting up all the backstory of the parents getting divorced. And then the picture of the two of them like at their dinner wedding table that comes back later in the plot, like you see the first time.
So then it kind of flashes forward. The twins, so they have twins. They basically, I don't know how this happens, but they're sent to the same summer camp. So after the photo montage, it's kind of like them being separately dropped off to summer camp. They're both 12 at this point. Again, have no idea that the other one exists. I don't know how they got to the same camp. It's called Camp Walden.
It's supposed to be, I think, like a really well-known girls' camp.
Oh, okay.
And
so it wasn't just
kind
like,
of just like
hey,
assume that like
local
people
YMCA.
know about it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because even for Hallie, who lives in America, it's in, I think the camp's in Maine.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's her local summer camp and Annie happens to like travel for it. Like they both are going really far. Arguably, Hallie might be actually going further from California to Maine than Annie is going from England to Maine, but besides the point.
I just, like, if you were 12 and you were like mom and dad, I would love to go to a very wealthy, well-known camp as a 12-year-old. What would they say?
I mean, they would have thought I was kidding because I hated summer camp personally.
Do you want to unpack or no? Not right now.
I never went sleepaway camp as a kid. I never wanted to.
You don't
we
like
had
camping
a really
in general.
Well, I don't like camping, but even with like the cabins and like it was like okay. Like there was a really well-known one in Rochester like all my friends went to and I never went.
Yeah. And you were like, no, it's fine.
But this, not even that, but like when I was little and some of my friends went to summer camp, they went for like 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think Camp Walden, it's like a summer.
The whole summer.
It's like weeks.
That's wild.
Which
Their
is kind of
parents are
crazy.
really like, get the hell out of my home.
And there's like young kids there. Like they're not definitely not like the youngest kids at that camp.
Yeah. It's just a weird vibe. Now that we're digging into this, I'm like, what the hell? Why? Yeah, you watch it and you're like, oh, what a nice tale. Now we're digging into it. There's some evil afoot.
I mean, it's like nice because there's like you can see what the whole part when they're at the camp, they're learning like different types of skills, I guess, like that they wouldn't learn in school.
They're pranking each other. I don't know. I feel
girlhood.
like you could do that.
We're in the girlhood era of this country now that Barbie's out.
So you're saying that your girlhood era included fencing with your good pals?
Included watching The Parent Trap and being like, man, Camp Walden rules.
Yeah, be like, man, I can't wait until we're old enough to
that
go
was
fencing.
Like girlhood of the 90s was Camp Walden.
Okay.
Girlhood of 2023 is Barbie.
I can step out if you just want to take over this one. But no, that's funny.
Oh, there is one other little fun fact about Camp Walden. While we're just talking about the camp in general, it's a girls' camp.
Yeah.
There's one boy that they kind of keep like referencing throughout the camp part that he's like stuck there. That's actually Lindsay Lohan's brother, like her real life brother that like made that little cameo to be like, Mom, come pick me up.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It seems like it's this well-known thing.
And he stays the whole summer.
Yeah.
Like no one does anything about it for months.
Is he the kid playing the bugle?
No, I think a girl plays the bugle actually.
Really? So he's just like...
But he's... And like by the end of the summer, all the girls are like, oh, we became such good friends. But like no one did anything the whole summer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm telling you, there's evil afoot in this movie. And it's Titanic and evil afoot. So now we're back to the plot. They enroll at summer camp. I think the opening scene is like they're both unloading their bags and stuff like that. They meet each other. They decide. I think the first scene where they actually see each other is during like fencing.
Yeah.
So
and they don't really see each other because of the mask.
Because they have
you can't really see the other person.
They're like, oh, I think Hallie was like really good at fencing.
Well, they both kind of were. Like they kind of ended. Like neither of them really.
Yeah.
Clearly won because one of them ended up just like falling into a pool.
Yeah.
Like,
after like a wild fencing montage that me personally I used to have with my buddies when I was 12 all the time. They take off their masks and they're like, all right, girls, shake hands like it was a good. And then they're like, oh my God, you look just like me. Which if I saw someone they're twins. Like, come on.
Yeah, right.
Know? I don't know how they're not like, oh, this is weird.
Like we have to figure out how we're twins.
Yeah,
not
and everyone's
like
hey,
that's
you
just
guys
weird that we
look similar.
Yeah.
Like, it's so dumb.
Even the camp counselor in that scene is like not sure which one's which.
Oh, so one of the camp counselors, not the main one, the older lady, the younger one.
The younger one, yeah.
I believe she plays Janet on Friends.
Janice
on Friends.
She does.
I'm so sorry if she's a listener.
Butchering the names today.
I'm a mess over here.
But yeah, like the Marvas is the two like head counselors at the camp.
Yeah.
There's like an older Marva and a younger Marva, and she's the younger.
She's the younger Marva.
And she like mixes them up when they first see each other.
Oh yeah,
she's like Hallie, Annie, Hallie.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't know which one's which.
I would have loved if that was like 20 minutes. Just that scene being like, Hallie.
And they're just standing there giving each other like death stares the whole time.
Yeah, it's
there's tension.
She's an okay actress. Lindsay Lohan. She's also 12.
She's 12.
I gotta give her a break.
And allegedly playing two parts at once.
Do you want to get into that now?
We can save that for the end.
All right, we'll save that until the end. So they basically form a rivalry for it throughout. Like they both have their own little friend groups. They start like pranking each other. It kind of keeps escalating, which those prank scenes were wild too. The one that's like
they were, yeah.
She is like there's chocolate or something up in a bucket.
She dumps a whole bucket of like hot fudge basically. Yeah. And then later a pillow like releases all of its feathers so they get stuck.
Yeah. Like how do they do this without waking them up?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the most unreal.
Yeah, they put like little wires over, like string in front of all of something and stuff.
Yeah, there's little like booby traps everywhere. Yeah.
Did they like dose these kids before they went to bed with just wild drugs? So there was something cool that I thought. So there's supposed to be a balloon that pops.
Oh yeah, I think I know where you're going with this.
I was going to say they had to put a little pin
to make sure it popped.
To make sure it popped, which I thought was cool. Which that was actually her. That was not Lindsay Lohan. That was her stunt double.
Her stand-in.
She had like a stand-in.
Who played the twin.
Yeah, they actually credit her in the movie, which I thought.
I mean,
was
she
really
did
cool.
a ton of. She basically had
She was in every scene.
With Lindsay twice. Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. So they're pranking each other and stuff like that. And basically, it goes a little too far. And they're sent to the isolation cabin. That's just, and then she does that. If you've seen this movie,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
And it's like a windmill point up towards the cabin. And I have to like excuse myself from the room because it's so dumb.
You get like secondhand embarrassment from it.
It's tough to watch. I just look it up on YouTube. Even if you've never seen this, watch that and tell me your day isn't going to be different. Not bad, not good, just different. That's all I'm going to say. It
sticks with you.
Yeah, it does because it's terrible. So they're in the isolation cabin, and what happens next?
Well, there's still tension between them for sure. They're definitely like not friends. I mean, that's how they ended up in the isolation cabin, is they got in trouble.
Yeah.
For trying to be mean to each other, basically.
Isn't that a wild concept? Where like we're gonna take two really like kids that are fighting and put them in a cabin and then just not check on them,
fix their problems.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a nice idea, but, like, in reality, they're just like, yeah, fuck them. Like, just put them up in the cabin. Like, who cares? That's just wild. So, I'm sorry, continue.
So, yeah, they're still, like, not super getting along, but the first time that they kind of start being nice to each other, I guess, is that, I forget which one actually is sitting, like, next to a window, writing in, like, her diary or whatever, and it starts storming, and she can't get the window closed.
Oh, yeah. And they're both like, you know what, we'll set aside our differences to overcome Mother Nature.
I guess.
Charming scene.
So she, like, comes over and they help get the window closed, and they're just, like, stuck in there during the storm. And that's when they share peanut butter on Oreos together. She's like, this is one of my favorite snacks. And the other one's like, oh, my God, me too.
Yeah. Lindsay Lohan's British accent, I don't know about it. What do you think?
I mean, I think given that she's 12 and doing both American and English back and forth, like they did each scene, I think that when they filmed each scene twice back to back, so like she would film it as Hallie American accent and then immediately as Annie English accent, so she was flipping back and forth constantly.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess like we did the easy part. I just watched it and judged.
And you're almost 30 and she's 12.
I am not almost 30. That's wild.
I'm just going to round for the sake of my point, which is that
big round.
She was 12.
Yeah, but
and you're...
I pay taxes. I don't have to take this. Like, so they're in they start bonding, and I think eventually they decide, oh, I have a picture. Like, what are your parents like? Like they're just making conversation. So they bring out a picture of each other, and it turns out it's one of the pictures from the opening montage of them at their wedding, ripped down the center. And
yeah,
then
because both of them are, well, Hallie's like, well, I've never even met my mom. I just have this one picture of her and it's ripped.
Yeah.
And then Annie's like, I only have one picture of my dad and it's also ripped. And they're like, they don't say it out loud, but mentally they're like, what if it's the same picture? And they take them out and it is.
Mentally they're like, I know we look exactly the same and are the same.
And I think actually by then they've also established that they have the same birthday.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And they're still not fully convinced that they're twins until the picture comes out.
That is bizarre. What do you know what their birthday was?
October 11th.
You just pulled that out of nowhere. That's wild. Like, Emily didn't write anything down for any of this stuff. This is impressive. Yeah. So I know there was something that you told me before this, is that Chessie,
Lisa Ann Walters,
you said she had kids.
She had identical twin boys on October 11th.
Yeah.
Like after filming, some amount of time after filming, I don't know.
Yeah.
The year, but it was October 11th and she had identical twins.
Yeah. What are the chances?
It's weird.
Reboot? I'm ready for another one. Yeah, but that is pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's like pretty wild.
So they have the same picture. So moral of the story is that if you have twins and then separate and then you take one of them and then you give the other one to the other person, give them a different picture of the other person.
Unless you want to get parent trapped.
But also just send them to like a local camp.
Maybe you don't send them across the country.
Yeah, for camp at 12 for the whole summer. But anyway. So now where are we? They decide, they see that they're have the same parents.
Yes. And I think still while they're in the isolation cabin is when they decide that they should switch places because Hallie really wants to meet their mom. Annie really wants to meet their dad.
Yeah. Oh, and she's like, we'll be back before you know it. Like they'll find out and we'll be switched and like it'll be fine.
And they think they're going to get their parents back together by the fact that they're going to have to switch back at some point.
Yeah. Parent trap.
So it's both. I think part of it is kind of nice. Like they just want to know the parent that they were left behind from.
Yeah.
Through the divorce or whatever, that they just want to get to know their other parent that they've never met, which is like,
that's valid.
I think that's why like they never really get mad.
Yeah,
like later in the
They're
movie.
Like, yeah, I mean that was kind of on us.
Like they just wanted to meet their parents,
which isn't bad. Or if you're Jessica Day from New Girl, you're going to use it as a tactic to get your parents back together.
But yeah, they do. And they're also like, but then they'll have to switch us back, and they'll meet each other again, and they haven't seen each other in so long, and yeah.
So they decide to switch. They, I think the one has to get her ears pierced and they get
her
their haircut, which I saw she got her ear pierced for this movie.
Oh, yeah?
Lindsay Lohan, like she got it pierced for this movie. I read that. I could be wrong. Lindsay, if you're out there, we'd love to hear from you. But I think she did get it pierced for the movie.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was like...
Which I guess makes... Well, I was going to say because of the scene where she's piercing... her ears.
Yeah.
It's Hallie piercing Annie's ears.
Yeah.
I was going to say that they do kind of do it live.
Yeah.
Like she puts the apple slice and they do the whole thing. But I guess they don't actually see her face, so that could have just been a different person.
Yeah, I think you just see...
You see like the side of her face and like the ear.
Someone got their ear pierced.
Someone got their ear pierced for that movie.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty cool story. So now they have formulated the perfect plan. They get picked up from camp, and they basically go their separate ways. So one goes to California. Napa Valley is where her dad lives. The dad lives. And then England, where the mom lives.
Oh, one other thing that they had to do in order to switch places is that Hallie had to learn the secret handshake that Annie has with Martin, the butler.
Yeah.
Which... they actually, like Lindsay Lohan and the guy who plays Martin, Simon, his name's Simon, they actually made up that handshake.
Really?
Like that was not choreographed.
That was just
in advance.
Like them
they basically were like, you guys need to go make a handshake, and it took them like a couple hours to like
that's pretty cool.
Figure it out, master it, and they do it like throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But they did it like themselves, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
But
and
then
that's a pretty like. That's a pretty
that's
well-known
iconic.
Scene.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that scene. If you've seen this movie, you know the shake. Well, not... You probably don't. I mean, maybe you know the whole thing, but...
Right.
Do you know the whole thing?
I know most of it. I've also seen a lot of people do it, like, for stuff at their wedding. Like, I've seen people do it as, like, either like the bridal party entrance, they'll do like someone will do the Parent Trap dance, or like I saw someone do like a father-daughter thing, like they did the Parent Trap dance.
Oh, that's kind of
It's like kind of funny.
That is.
But yeah, there's like a big montage in the movie where Annie is teaching Hallie the handshake, like they're like practicing it all over camp, trying to master it.
Because that was one thing she was like, he's gonna know if you don't know this handshake.
So that's like when they switch. Basically, she gets to the airport in England, which like she just flew back by herself.
Yeah, she
that's
just hopped
crazy.
on a plane. I'm telling you, this movie is really wild if you think about it.
But Martin comes to pick her up, and like immediately, they have like a look.
Yeah,
and it's immediately
it's like, all right,
like we're doing the handshake.
Game on.
She's got to jump right into it. So
and she nails it.
She's ready.
She gets it. Good to go. So this is like you first see Hallie in England. So she meets basically is meeting all of her family. She meets her mom, her grandfather, obviously the butler. And I'm trying to think. Doesn't she do some? Oh, she hugs her grandpa and is like, "I just want like you smell." And like you smell really good, and he's like, thank you. So
yeah, she says that he like smells like something specific.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
And he was like,
that's really weird. Thanks, dude. You got a weird vibe.
But then he later on, not to jump ahead, but he is the one that figures it out first that they've switched.
I think he has like
he kind of has an inkling, but then he like confirms it for realsies. As like he's the first one in their family to figure it out.
So it goes really well. She meets everybody. She's having the time of her life, and then it flashes over to Annie. He meets Nick and Chessie, and that goes like pretty well. Like everyone's, it's just like they've seemed to have fooled them up until now.
Yeah, and it's just wholesome because they're like very clearly having a moment, like the first time that Hallie got to hug her mom, and the first time Annie got to hug her dad, and there's like
it's pretty nice
a moment, and
it's a whole thing.
When they're driving back to Napa Valley from the airport, Annie keeps saying, like at the end of every sentence, she says dad, and he's like, "Why do you keep saying that?" She's like, "I just missed you," but it's like she never got to call anyone dad. Like she's just excited.
He has a really funny line. He's like, oh, "I'm sorry, Dad, I just miss you, Dad," and he's like, "What'd you do at that camp?" It's just pretty funny. So then he finds out it's kind of lining up to be this perfect thing, and then we find out that Nick is engaged to Meredith Blake, 26 years old, publicist, evil from San Francisco, and it's like super clear that her both of their parents are very wealthy. So she is like a wedding dress designer, a very famous one, which I think I saw. Who's the
Vera Wang.
Vera Wang.
They're actually Vera Wang dresses.
Yeah, I think you told
movie.
me this when we were the last time we watched it. So they're actually like Vera Wang dresses, but she's supposed to be like at that level of like people know her. And then similarly, the dad Nick, he owns a really I guess popular winery vineyard, which you have a shirt.
Parker
Knoll Vineyards, right?
Yes.
So you, just to shout out this person, so you were wearing a Camp Walden crew neck, and then you have the Parker Knoll Vineyards. What was the name of the person that did that?
Yeah, it's a little store called 100 Acre Threads. She's just like a small business online that I found on TikTok, but she's on social media everywhere.
She got a lot of really cool stuff.
She makes collections for different movies. So she has a whole collection of Parent Trap. She has the Parker Knoll, Camp Walden. She has one for like Meredith Blake's company.
Yeah.
And just like merch for the movie. And she has other movies too. She has like
I think she recreates, like you can buy like a recreated like camp t-shirt or something like that, right? Isn't that something? The
Camp Walden shirt?
Yeah.
I have the crew neck, but there's a t-shirt version that looks like the ones that they wear in the movie. So
it's cool. I mean, I think there's like, not to get on a tangent, but I think it's like some of these older movies, it's like it's really hard to find. It's
just like nostalgia,
it's just
basically.
Nostalgic,
like people are still big fans of the movie.
People still like it. So I think that just goes to show that like there's people out there like still making merch for it. Like that's pretty cool. But I thought it was nice to shout them out, and we can include their little like a Instagram page or shop in the description if you wanted to check that out. So where were we?
Meredith Blake has entered the scene. Very clearly not liked.
Yeah, very clearly marrying Nick for the money.
Right. She says, there's a very large age difference.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a really funny line that she says. It might be later, but it's like, why do you love, why do you, why are you getting married? And she's like, oh, there's millions of reasons to get married or something to that effect. And you're like, you scumbag. Like, that's just wild. But I don't know. Here we are. They made a movie about it. So anyway, you meet Meredith Blake. She only basically wants to marry him for his money. Annie and Hallie finally get to talk to each other again. And they basically are like, Hallie's having the time of her life with her mom, and he's like, oh my goodness, this is the best. Like, I can't wait until we're all together. And then Annie is like, we got threat level midnight, dude. Like, we are screwed because there's like this Meredith person has entered the chat. So I think they suggest they said that she should bring her mom over to California like early, right? Isn't there like before they actually meet? I know there was something. I don't know. I guess that's like the whole thing, like how they end up getting together.
That's how they end up. Yeah. Eventually they decide to plan a trip. Well, I mean, eventually it's just because Elizabeth James finds out that she actually has Hallie and knows she has to switch them back. Yeah. So they go to California. But the part that's falsified is that Hallie tells her mom that Annie and Nick Parker know they're coming.
Oh, true.
And he does not.
True. So yeah, I guess it ends up being she was saying there's a scene she's like laying in bed with her mom and she's like, oh, I don't want to leave, like it's gonna be different, like I just want to spend time with you. And she's like, why are you acting so weird, like you've been acting. And she's like, well, I think she's like, Annie, you've been acting so weird. And she's like, I'm not Annie, I'm Hallie. And then it's like bum 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 except it isn't. And she's like, it's just very emotional.
Yeah. And there's also a really cute moment before that with her grandpa.
Oh, true.
Because she basically like leaves. They're all having dinner and it's like cute and nice. And Martin at this point is kind of in on it. Yeah. And not. I don't think he knows to the point that they're switched, but he knows that she's trying to like talk to some of her friends from camp.
Yeah, and Chessie's the same way because it's like that's at the beginning when we were saying like it was.
Yeah, Chessie is suspicious from the moment she gets there.
Day one, because
the dog barks at her.
The dog barks at her. She makes her favorite meal, which is chili, and she's like, you're acting weird.
And she doesn't want her chili.
Yeah. She says you gave me a fright when she got scared.
What does that mean?
You're saying weird stuff. You don't eat the chili. Like, what is going on? Chessie's the real hero in this whole movie.
Yeah. But anyway, they're at dinner and Martin is like pouring water for someone and he's holding a note behind his back. Basically it's like a picture, but basically he's trying to tell Annie that other Annie is trying to get a hold of her. Yeah. So she just like excuses herself from dinner, says she needs some fresh air, and walks down the street to a phone booth.
Yeah.
The grandpa is immediately suspicious and follows her. So then she comes out of the phone booth. He's standing right there, and he's like, let's go take a walk. And, like, he finds out the whole thing. So by the time her mom finds out, he's, like, standing in the doorway and is just nodding, like, yep, it's true. Like, he already knew.
Yeah, which is pretty wholesome.
Yeah.
So they're on one side, they've found out. I don't think on the other side, like, on Nick's side, they found out.
Yeah, it took much longer.
Chessie does find out, because she has
But she doesn't tell. Yeah, they don't tell Nick for a long time.
Because Chessie finds out, I think this is, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so she actually does find out. So that'll happen in England, like they found out. And then Chessie finds out.
It's while she's going on about, like, you don't want to eat the chili I made you.
Yeah.
And
Nick is right there.
You're saying all these weird things. He's outside, like, at first. Yeah. And she's like, she starts to say, like, I would almost think that you're never, she's like, never mind.
It's too crazy.
And then Annie's like, almost like I'm Annie.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know about that? And like,
yeah, she's like, it's because I am her.
Yeah, so she finds out, and then immediately Nick walks in the room, and Chessie's like unpacking emotionally the fact that like crying. The other twin is there, and she's like, I'm just looking at her like I've always looked at her all these years, all 12 years.
All 12 years.
I held her in the hospital.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna make something to eat. Anybody want something? Just walks out. That is a really great scene.
He's like super confused.
Yeah, he's like, okay, that is pretty good.
That's like I think that's one of the scenes that they had to film most in the movie because like she really wanted to get it like just right.
Oh really?
And they filmed it one? Like something like 60 or 70 times. I think they ended up filming it for her to like
60 or 70 times.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
for
times.
to get. I mean, which like that scene is really iconic.
Yeah,
and like
pretty funny.
How
That's
like emotional she is and stuff about it. Like it paid off.
Oh
but...
yeah, she did her job.
Yeah,
but, it's very fun. I think that's another one of these like pretty iconic scenes of them like realizing. So now the secret is out. They check in on each other again, and they realize that there is that Nick was going to propose to her. I think that was. Well, I think
they're
earlier,
already
right?
engaged.
Oh, that's right.
But they're just
introduce you to
telling.
my fiance.
They're just like going to tell Hallie when she gets home, basically. So the whole time they're trying to like build up to telling her.
That is true.
And
that is true.
And Hallie just like Hallie/Annie keeps like avoiding it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So now the secret is out with Elizabeth, so they decide like we have to get you back to your dad. Like we have to go to California. And he's like, "Yep, I already talked to Dad. He's ready to meet you. Happy to see you."
Yeah. So she like lies. I mean, like her and Annie have this plan of like meeting at a specific place in California and stuff, but Hallie
like the dad
leads her mom to believe that it's like a planned thing, and the four of them are just going to meet up and have lunch in this nice little
and then
day
just make the exchange and go
purpose.
About their way.
Yeah,
I do like. So she was, she's like a wreck trying to get ready for it, and she asks. She asks the butler. He's like, "Would you be able to come with me? Like not as like
just as a friend,
just as a friend." And she's like, "I don't know what to wear," and he's like, "Well then, as a friend." And he's like pulling out clothes.
If I had your legs, I would wear this little number. And he like pulls out a dress. It out.
He like instantly like just snaps into his true self, which is really good in that. So then there's another funny scene, which they're getting ready to leave, and he's normally in like a suit. Their butler's like normally in a suit. He comes out in like an all leather outfit with like sunglasses on. You're like, who? This guy is. Yeah. He's given one day off. And he's just goes crazy with it. That is just I do love it. He's pretty good too. I think like both of the. I guess Chessie and Martin,
the Butler people
are, I think they're my favorite people in the whole movie. So where are we? What happens next?
So now we're at Hallie and her mom and Martin, the butler, coming back to California under the impression that they're going to meet Annie and Nick in like a purposeful way.
Yeah, like they think that there's supposed to be there.
Yeah, and what's actually
Nick is
happening,
still oblivious to this whole thing.
Yeah, and then what's actually happening is that Nick and Meredith are at this really fancy hotel to tour it for a wedding venue.
Yeah, that's like why they picked that hotel, because they knew, right? Oh, we're going here. Like,
so you guys just come.
Just come and like,
and they're like staying there. Like Hallie and her mom have like a room. They're staying at that hotel.
Yeah,
while they're in town.
It all like kind of checks out. It's a good plan.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
That's a really good plan.
Pull it off. Yeah,
that is pretty great. So they arrange this meeting. They have I guess it's a funny way that they actually end up meeting each other. They're kind of like seeing each other. Nick and Elizabeth are kind of like catching glimpses of each other, and they're like, "Wait, what?"
Well, he's in the elevator with Meredith, and she's like all over him as she is all the time. And Elizabeth like comes up basically to get on the elevator as it's closing, and he like, sees her like through the door, and is like confused. So that's when she goes to the girls who are in her hotel room and is like, "You know what's crazy? Yeah. I just saw him, and he sure didn't look like he knew I was going to see him today. So what's that about?"
So I think they're finally like,
then they crack.
It instantly crumbles, and she's sitting in the bar in the hotel, and Elizabeth comes up, who's I guess Nick's fiance, and is like, "Oh my god, I know you. Like, I would love to like have you."
Meredith, you're talking about, yeah.
Oh yeah, Meredith. I'm sorry. So Meredith is like, "Oh my god, you're Elizabeth. Like, I love your dresses and stuff." I think she ends up saying like she's gonna design that. She's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll make a dress." Because
she doesn't know that she doesn't know that that's the girl that was with Nick, because she's like facing the other way.
Yeah.
But what's weird? Well, like Elizabeth goes down there to have a drink because she's just like a wreck about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But she's just like signing her check, and Meredith is like very closely watching her signature. Like, why was she doing that?
Oh yeah,
It's like so like she's like signing it and like passing it back, and Meredith's eyes are like on the receipt, like watching her sign it and pass it.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "You're Elizabeth James, like the wedding designer."
Like it just highlights that she's a scumbag.
She's a scumbag. Yeah,
that's good,
fair.
Dirty, rotten scumbag.
Another little fun fact about that hotel scene is that Meredith's parents are there to look with them.
Yeah. And
the actress who plays Meredith's mom played like the equivalent of Meredith in the original Parent Trap.
Oh, really?
That's and really with the same name. So her name's Vicky. Like Meredith's mom is named Vicky because she to the girls is like, you can call me Aunt Vicky.
Ugh.
And it's like weird, but
sorry to anyone named Vicky.
It's just like
I didn't mean to be weird. That came out.
It wasn't
weird.
against the name.
It's just like she's just a slime ball in the movie. Like I don't know.
But the equivalent of Meredith in the original Parent Trap is Vicky, and it's played by her, and then she plays Vicky again, and her daughter is the scumbag.
Is the scumbag. A whole family.
So that's like a connection from the original.
That's pretty cool. It is nice that they try and do like little callback. I mean, it makes sense if you're like. This movie's already been done, like you might as well call back the original one. So long story short, they finally do see each other. They do end up confronting each other, Nick and Elizabeth. He falls in the pool, which I think is
that's
really
like
funny.
Basically when they talk to each other for the first time is because he fell in.
He fell in. So they're sitting next to each other, and then I keep forgetting her name. Meredith comes up, and she's like, "Oh,
you
Nick,
already met.
You guys already met. Like they're gonna make our dress." And he's like, "Oh, hey, like Liz, it's been so." She's like, "Wait a minute. How do you two know each other?"
Which is like, also, isn't that like a little bit sketchy that he was married before, has 2 children, and never told Meredith even what his ex-wife's name was?
Maybe. I don't know. That is kind of weird.
Like, I don't know how you would mention, like, oh,
I was a lot of weird stuff in this movie, so I don't know.
I just don't know how you would, like, be with a new person and be like, yeah, I was married before and I had twins with her. Yeah. And then, like, that's it. Not say, like, her name was Elizabeth James. Like, nothing else. It's just like, I was married. We have 2 kids, and I only have one of them. And
I feel like even just, like, in general, like, you would have found... Like, she's a famous person.
Right.
You know, I feel like you would have stumbled upon it.
Right.
I don't know. But that just shows she's blinded by the millions of reasons. Scumbag
quote
city.
Unquote, millions of
reasons. Scumbag. Anywho... Sorry, I'm just getting fired up. She's the worst. So they, I think she gets like pretty mad. Is this the part where she's decides to like lead? What happens next? I can't remember.
Well, the whole time she kind of has a plot in her mind of trying to get rid of Hallie. She thinks only Hallie's in the picture. Yeah. When she first, like, Hallie comes back from camp. She doesn't even know there's a twin. Yeah. Even though Nick obviously knows there's a twin. He never told her that.
Yeah. Like, again, wild.
But there's like a part when Hallie first gets back where Meredith like tells her assistant that she's going to send Hallie off to a boarding school in the middle of nowhere or something.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So then once she finds out that there's twins and like loses her mind about it, like she really thinks that she's going to like put an end to it and be able to like get rid of them, while the girls obviously have changed their plot from the Parent Trap, because now they're in the same place, to getting Meredith out of the picture. Yeah. So they're ready to like go pull prank after prank on her to get her out of the picture.
So they decide like this is where the movie. So now everybody knows about everybody. Yeah. And so they decide like, oh, it'd be a good bonding thing. Like while you're here, like come check out the vineyard. Like we're gonna go. They decide to go on like this big camping trip as a family to be like, it'd be nice for you to get to know her. And for the girls.
But Meredith's not supposed to go. It's supposed to just be
it's just
the parents and the girls.
So they can all like catch up and stuff like that.
Because Hallie and her dad usually go like it's like the weekend before school starts or something that they go. So they're like, oh, we'll like go as a family. Yeah. But then at the last minute, Elizabeth is like, no, I think Meredith should go because the girls should get to know her.
I think she knows that like it's going to end horribly. Yeah. So that's pretty funny. So they're on this camping trip. And it does go horribly. They're like pranking her the whole time. She's not like an outdoorsy person one bit.
Yeah, that's very obvious. But then they're like hiking up to where they're staying for a while. It's very clearly like a long hike. Yeah. And they're like, every time that she stops and puts her bag down, they put another rock in her backpack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny actually.
And then there's like all kinds of things
they
with
put
like
a little
bugs,
like lizard and
but
stuff
then
like
the
that.
lizard is like an iconic moment where they put a lizard on top of her head while she's like sitting down, and the lizard like crawls down her face,
into her mouth. Awful CGI, but it was at the times, I guess. It was 98, so I guess I can't be too mad.
Yeah.
So it kind of ends the ending of the camping scene is they push her air mattress out into the lake because she takes a ton of sleeping medicine because she's just over the whole thing.
She hates being on that trip. Oh, yeah. While they're sitting by the campfire, she's complaining that she keeps getting bit by bugs.
Oh, this is great.
And Hallie and Annie had given her like this bug spray, but it's really just sugar water.
Yeah, which would wildly attract everything.
Yeah, and she's been like putting sugar water on herself the whole night.
And then right before she goes to bed, she's like, "Well, I'm going to bed," and starts knocking sticks together. She's like, "Yeah, it's for the mountain lions." And she's like, "You know what? There's no mountain lions. I'm just gonna go." And you can tell that like they've just been like shitting all over her this whole time, which is awesome because she's the worst. She's a scumbag.
Yeah. But then once she falls asleep into like a very deep sleep pill-induced sleep
slumber, they push her out.
Which is like, I feel like kind of an ode back to their camp. Because that's like a classic prank from a summer camp.
Yeah.
So like they did so much pranking on each other. Now they've like teamed up and they're pranking Meredith and they push her air mattress out to sea.
Similar to the Power Rangers combining forces to make one Power Ranger.
I don't know that I'd say that, but
I've never seen just like a silence fall. So, anywho. So she's pissed. She wakes up, screams, swims back to shore, and basically is like, "All right, Nick,
she just leaves.
It's the girls or me."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, them, obviously." She's like, "What's up?" Like, no,
like
no,
so
like
quickly.
Them. Like them. They're they're my kids.
Like without a thought.
And so it's just clown.
And she just leaves.
Yeah.
Like they come home. So they come home from the camping trip. She's not with them anymore.
Yeah, huge clown.
It's unclear how she got home. Who cares, honestly?
Yeah, she could die.
Doesn't
for
matter.
All I care.
But Elizabeth like comes outside to meet them and is like,
"Where did they go?" Yeah.
Uh-oh.
She knew.
Yeah.
So then I think this is the final scene. Like then they decide, all right, this lady's out of the awful lady's out of the Meredith's out of the picture.
Well, the girls organize a little
trip,
like
a day thing,
a little dinner
excursion
on a boat, and they basically like recreate the scene.
That's right. Yeah, that's
from their wedding picture, from like the little table that they had, and like recreate that on the boat, and have Martin and Chessie as like the servers, the dinner servers, so they can just like have some alone time and talk. Yeah, and the girls are like in a different room, just like watching the whole time, basically.
Yeah, and so that goes pretty well. And they talk about like what went wrong and all that sort of thing. But then later they go back to the house, and Chessie and Martin or the girls are asleep. I think it's basically the scene where they're in the basement, looking at all the wines. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's like, I think that's even before the camping trip. It's pretty early when they get to California that happens.
So that's
that he still has the bottle from like the wine that they had at their wedding.
So you can kind of see, like, I know we've been kind of jumping around a little bit. We haven't written down anything. We're just chatting through the plot. So there's a scene like right before the camping trip where they they're just kind of catching up. They haven't seen each other in a really long time. He brings her down to his like private reserve wine area, and you find out that he still has the wine from their wedding.
He says that he's tried
every bottle of it.
To buy every bottle.
Basically every bottle in existence he owns, which so it's kind of like
there's little like right, like they kind of make it obvious that he's still there's still a place in his heart for her,
which I think also like after that conversation that there's like still something there. I think the next day where she's like, I'll let the girls just finish off this hoe.
Yeah,
like get her out of here.
She knows.
She knows she's beat.
And then when they get back from the camping trip, Nick comes in and he's like, "Where's Chessie?" And she's like, and Elizabeth's like, "Oh, they left to go have lunch at noon yesterday."
Yeah, so they're just like,
just like never came
They're just like
home.
gone. Yeah, they're giving each other the old "how you doing" eyes like all throughout this movie, which is really great.
Yeah,
too.
like once they meet, they do have like a meet cute.
Oh yeah,
in the hotel.
Martin's in his little
leather outfit.
No, I thought he was in the bathing suit.
Oh, he does. Yeah, he says he's gonna go swim.
Yeah, and he's like,
and like runs into Chessie. Yeah.
It's just
so then they like go on a little picnic and I guess like finally get together, but then they do reappear and serve dinner on the boat for the boat scene where they're kind of like talking about well, they start talking about like what to do about the girls, basically. Yeah. So they're finally like facing the facts.
This is Nick and Elizabeth.
Right.
Yeah. So I think they ultimately decide like, maybe I could come, or she could come. You know, if the girls can be together for the summers, like here one year,
trying to figure out how to break it up,
holidays and such. But they're like, no, we're not going to get back together. Like it's stupid.
That's what they think.
Right now, that's what we are led to believe in the plot. So, yeah, I guess they go back to London. What happens next?
So they basically settle at that. They say they're going to see each other on like certain holidays.
Oh, that's right.
And so Annie and her mom leave. Of course, it's like pouring rain the day they leave. Of course.
Yeah.
Has to be like the sad scene, pouring rain.
Oh, obviously.
So they leave to go back to London. They get home, walk in, and Annie goes into like the study where her grandfather always sits.
Yeah.
And Hallie spins around.
Yeah.
And is like, did you know that this such and such flight is much faster than whatever they took?
Yeah.
So her and her dad beat them back basically to their house and had coordinated with their grandfather to
grandpa, man,
get there. He's a hero too.
He is a hero. He's wearing his like little 19-piece suit every time you see him. They basically like Nick says there's a line earlier where he says like, you know, why did you leave, like why did you walk out? And she says, I thought you would follow me.
Yeah.
Which is, and so basically he's like just calls back to earlier in the plot and is like, I didn't want to, like, I followed you.
Didn't want to let you go, like walk away again.
And so everybody's happy.
And saying, this will be.
Yeah, and that's basically the end of the movie. It ends on like a nice little like montage of them.
Oh yeah, the montage in the credits is amazing because it's their second wedding.
Yeah.
So it's like all these pictures from their wedding with the girls. The girls are like junior bridesmaids or something like clearly have like a fancy outfit on. And then Martin proposes to Chessie.
It's like all through
like
pictures.
At the reception, but you're seeing like the pictures of like her being surprised and getting the ring and like
It's so
wholesome, yeah.
It's pretty good. It's just a nice way to end it. So it all works out in the end, and Lindsay Lohan allegedly is the only person playing the daughters gets what they want. So this leads us into our last discussion of this, which, Emily, I'm just going to let you outline this, and then like the people can ponder it. Like we're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of online resources to support the.
Would you like to cite any
the various evidence?
Any official? But what do the major trade publications get behind?
So, the theory is that Lindsay Lohan did not actually play both roles. The theory is that she actually had a twin. I'm trying to remember what her name was. That like she has a name and everything. Like this, there's like evidence.
Yeah.
She had an actual twin with a different name than Lindsay.
Yeah.
And that her actual twin played the other twin in the movie. And had a tragic accident and died before the film was released. And Disney, if you don't know, has a really weird thing about people dying on their property.
I didn't know that.
There's like a really, like if you look up anything that's happened about like, even if somebody like dies at a Disney resort, completely unrelated to anything Disney did, like Disney will not pronounce someone dead until they're off of their property. It's like a whole thing.
Disney,
it's very weird.
This is all just from the internet. We do not like. We joke about it, but Disney's scary, man. Disney's
like a little scary.
I'm not fucking with Disney. Disney, you can keep killing people for all I care. You're killing it.
Yep.
Except for your past, where you had really terrible views about a lot of things. Yeah. But don't sue us, please. Anywho,
so there's like this whole thing where Disney like won't pronounce people dead on their property. So the theory is that Lindsay's twin died from some tragic accident on the set.
Okay.
And Disney didn't want to ruin the movie basically by saying that this other girl, the girl died.
Yeah.
So they just said, we're just going to say Lindsay played both parts, and that's that.
And then that was the end of it.
And so that's the theory, is that Lindsay does not actually play both roles. It was played by her and this twin that died between the end of filming and the movie's release. So there's like all this stuff that you can look up online where people compare Hallie and Annie's like facial structures.
Yeah.
and try to basically show that like they're not the same person, that like they're identical twins, but there's still some differences in identical twins.
Yeah.
And if you really look at some of their mannerisms and their facial structures and stuff like that, like it's not the same person. People are trying to prove.
Okay. Where do you stand? Because my stance is one dude wrote Star Wars. It's really easy to make up wild things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think it's legit.
I
don't know.
Love
you
a celebrity-based conspiracy theory.
Yeah, you're just a sucker for them.
Like, I wouldn't say I love all conspiracy theories, because some of them are crazy. Like the moon landing never happened. Like, all right, let's calm down. But like, pretty much anything related to a celebrity that's like
theory that is harmless.
It's harmless, and like it's just basically nonsense. Like, I love it. Like
if someone was like, oh, like Elvis is still alive. Like,
Michael Jackson's in the Bermuda Triangle. I love that one.
Yeah, like those ones are wild to me. So anyway.
So I do get behind it, and I do read any of the evidence that comes out online about it. But there's like,
so
there's
I just
even
wanted
pictures
to go on the record that if Emily goes missing, it wasn't me. First of all, let's just clear that right away.
Could have been Disney.
It might have been Disney. I don't know. But if the next episode is what episode? I think this is going to be episode 12. If there's a different episode that's episode 12, and then I never have Emily on again, Disney paid me off. That's all I'm going to say. No, that's terrible.
But yeah, besides the fact that people compare their facial structures, there's like pictures of Lindsay Lohan's mom holding two babies that look about the same age that are supposed to be Lindsay and her twin. And there's like records of this other person that's Lindsay's age.
What
and
records,
like,
though?
I don't know.
I feel like
I'm not at liberty to say.
I'm not the attorneys.
But
our dog has told us we can't.
If you want to look it up, there is plenty of stuff out there that you could Google Lindsay Lohan's twin Parent Trap.
The show has not taken an official stance on where we stand. I just want that to be clear.
Yeah.
We can't
on the
take
record,
a side.
Yeah.
I can't. I want to, but I can't.
But there's some evidence out there, and if you want to look for it, it's there.
Yeah. Should we wrap up with what is it? Believe It or Not? Ripley's. Did you watch that show?
I didn't really, but I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So anyway, that was The Parent Trap in a weird ending.
Yeah.
It is a good movie overall.
I'm trying to remember if there was
Did you have any other like fun facts or anything you wanted to talk about?
That's what I was just thinking of.
I mean, I was like pretty.
The internet will tell you that there's fun facts related to how they filmed it because of Lindsay Lohan playing both roles. Like they would film.
Where was this filmed? Do you know? Did you see where this one was filmed?
I don't know actually. Like I don't know if Camp Walden's like a real place that they used or.
I don't know. I think that would be like.
But in general, like because Lindsay was playing both parts, you mentioned they actually did credit her stand-in because her stand-in was in every scene, really.
Yeah.
And actually, the person who played her stand-in, she like is famous in her own way now. Like she's on Broadway and stuff. But basically, like they filmed every scene twice. They would do it back to back. So they would film it once, and then they would give Lindsay Lohan an earpiece with the dialogue
I saw that.
so that she could fill
like
in correctly.
That's pretty cool.
But like I said, that meant she had to flip back and forth with her accent between every scene.
Yeah.
So like that's difficult.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, she is good if it's true. If you be the judge.
If you want to decide that she did play both roles in these,
we will let you. That be your own.
Erin Mackey is the name of the girl who played the stand-in.
Yeah, that's pretty.
It's credited.
That is cool that they credit her. So
she knows some stuff.
Like how? Like there's no way people would keep that. Why hide that? Because
Disney has such a weird thing about people dying on their property.
Not one of these podcasts, though. I don't want to go into like all these.
I know,
weird
but like
things.
that's the like why would they do that? That's the why is like the whole Disney death thing. Like they think it's gonna like ruin the experience of being at Disney World and like that whole thing. Like they don't want any like negative things to have happened on their property. That's like I think where it comes from.
Well, they basically rob
like
everyone the second you walk into a park, so that's cool. But anyway, I did see that Camp Walden was filmed Camp Sealy in Crestline, California. So it's a real camp.
Oh, okay.
It is
in
real
California.
Camp. But they did film a lot in, it looks like Napa Valley, San Francisco, Los Angeles. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
But anyway, did you have any other fun facts or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think I hit most of them.
Yeah, I think I was good as well. I'm trying to think if there was any other funny lines. But this is a good movie either way. Parent Trap, 1998. Definitely watch it. I mean, we've watched this one probably like once a month.
Yeah, I think like
several years.
Similar to the episode I was on previously for Clueless, this is another movie that like there's no downtime. There's no dull moments. It's moving.
There's a lot going on in it. Yeah.
The plot, and the plot isn't like a steady rise and decline, you know, that kind of standard plot line. Like it's camp to they're split up to they're together to they're going on the camping trip. Like it's kind of just like moving through parts the whole time and like not a super predictable way.
Yeah, I mean there is a lot of different,
and it stays interesting the whole time. So I think that's also part of the reason I like it. Yeah,
a lot going on. Oh, I did. So this is one that I just saw. I saw right before we filmed this or recorded this. Not really. It's not related to the conspiracy or anything. So I'm really sorry if people were super into that. That's a whole other podcast that we could start. But so their wine that they had, it was called "Where the Dreams Have No End." It's a real wine, but they were married in 1986. In this movie, the first bottle wasn't produced until 1987.
It's a little bit of a
thing. So I just thought that was cool. I thought that was like I
didn't
even know that was a real wine.
Yeah.
But anyway. So I think that was truly the last thing. I actually did jot that one down. I just found it now. I'm so sorry. Back to the conspiracy. No, I'm kidding. All right, we've done that one to death. Sorry, I think we're going to wrap this one up. Like you said, that was a Parent Trap, 1998. Thank you, Emily, for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you'll come back and talk another conspiracy. Maybe we can do another child actor that has a wild past or something.
Leah Michelle, she's my other favorite celebrity to have conspiracy theories about.
All right, well, I guess tune in.
That's a cliffhanger for next time.
Cliffhanger, I guess. You should start a show of just like celebrity.
A Glee rewatch.
Yeah, but they're doing a Glee rewatch.
Yeah, they are.
But anyway, so all right, cool. Thank you again. Until next time, if you guys are liking this, be sure to give us some reviews on Spotify, wherever you listen. We've been seeing a couple more. We appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.